in many instances, your friends don't feel about you as you may feel about them. There is a racial barrier that exists and will always exist. And your realities are always going to be different. And you're always going to be looked at by your white friends differently. And so to that extent, he may not have understood that to be the case. He may have had trust for those he shouldn't have. He may have had a particular mindset that wasn't quite as rational as it should be when you're growing up in that environment. Sometimes you're irrational and you think you can do the same things they do and get away with it. No, you can't. Your black behind will go to jail and they'll go to counseling.
When Judge Greg Mathis publicly addressed Nolan Wells' case, he didn't hold back. After reviewing the findings from the second autopsy, he said one detail immediately caught his attention. The report described what officials called discoloration on the back of Nolan's head and neck. But Mathis argued that, in his view, those markings looked more like bruises than simple discoloration. While stressing that he was not making an official finding, he said the discovery raised serious questions that deserved further investigation.
Yes, I think when we last spoke, we were awaiting the forensic autopsy because the original autopsy performed by the county examiner, we just weren't convinced it would be independent, quite frankly, because we weren't getting enough information from law enforcement. And so the forensic autopsy came back, and lo and behold, even though they're trying to downplay it, and I understand Ben Crump and NAACP and others don't want to try and jump to conclusion or step too far out, but the forensic autopsy showed that there was what they call discoloration. No, I call them bruises in the back of the head, appearing that someone has had their hand pressed at the back of their head, at the back of Nolan's head. That's concerning to me. And so hopefully we'll get some more insight on that. I'm not sure. It seems like there's another opportunity for them to investigate something physiological. I'm just not sure because as far as I knew, the forensic autopsy is as far as you go, but we'll see. But yeah, that's what causes new concern. And then you've had different stories coming out from the teenagers. One of the young men himself spoke out about it, claiming they had begged Nolan to get on the boat, and that he wouldn't. Then there's the woman that he's supposed to have stayed back with. I think her name Katie or something. Well, he was supposed to have stayed back with Katie. That was their story. However, Katie's friend says that she saw him only in passing on the island, didn't stay with him, and Katie isn't saying anything at all. So it's a lot of moving parts here, and I'm just hoping it's not one of those, quite frankly, and if his friends didn't have anything to do with it and they truly left him behind, etc., etc., he has discoloration, bruises on the back of his neck. Something happened. And quite frankly, this is Mississippi, where in 1955, which sparked the civil rights movement, Emmett Till was killed for so-called whistling at a white woman. And now we're hearing Nolan Wells stayed back to be with a white woman. And he turns up dead with bruises behind his neck. That's the context I'm putting this in. It's Emmett Till, perhaps, all over. Well, the dynamics are the same. He's with a white woman, or allegedly said something with, or however you view it, with a white woman, and there's a suspicion that white men killed him. And that was the case with Emmett Till. He so-called whistled as a kid. 13 was he? Whistled so-called the woman at the store. White woman says he whistled at her. What happened? White men killed him. And that's why I'm making that analogy. But it could altogether be untrue. But I'm making the analogy as a possibility. And that is the case of my thought processes. Yeah, I mean, what else? Why is it only there in the back of your neck, which is coincidentally how you drown somebody? You put the head in the back of the neck and not let them up, and they try and push up, but you got the head down, so the head bruises in the back of the neck because somebody tried to hold it down or did hold it down.
Mathis also pointed to the growing number of conflicting accounts about Nolan's final hours. Different witnesses offered different versions of why Nolan remained on Horn Island, while questions continued to surround his phone, the timeline, and statements from those who were with him that day. For Mathis, those inconsistencies made it difficult to accept that all the major questions had already been answered.
I'm only presenting the facts, and I only made the analogy to Emmett Till because it's the same optics. However, do I know whether it's the same? Do I know any of the factors that I'm suggesting is accurate? No, but I am making observations about the facts as I see them. And then I am, yes, speculating. And quite frankly, in the law, you're not supposed to speculate. You're supposed to have hard facts. But in this case, since nobody's given us any hard facts, we can't get into the information that we need, then yes, we're left to only speculate. Yeah, and they allege now that that's standard. I'm not sure about that, so I can't tell you. I don't know about autopsies in that sense. But they said one of his lungs and then parts of his throat, and I read that that's typical, but I just don't know. And I'm not one to try and find something that is not there. I mean, we have enough that's there that we don't have to go looking too further. Did they take the organs out? Did they do whatever with the throat? Well, that's down the line. What we do know, because we don't know why and results and what that process is. Are they taking tissues from those organs and analyzing them for further evidence or insights, etc.? We don't know. What we do know is that he left and was left and drowned, and his buddies are not speaking, and the one that just spoke about it acted as if they pressured him to leave, and he wouldn't. However, they left his phone. They have that. They don't present it to his mother as a average person would. Time I get back, he didn't come with us. He left his phone. I'm calling your parents. And I understand that they didn't even call him immediately after finding out that he had been drowned or that he had drowned. So that's certainly the time that you call and say, hey, I see he's drowned. I have his phone. No, they waited. And in fact, some of the information had been deleted from that phone that had been there. And put all those things together and the discoloration on the neck, and I'm convinced that someone did something wrong. Yes, I am.
If it was the bruises behind his neck, yeah, that needs to be looked into. It sounds like he got into an altercation.
And they allege that there's video of him getting into an altercation. I'm not sure if I've seen it or not. I've been paying close attention, but either I've heard or seen that he was involved in an altercation there. And who knows what that altercation is about? Once again, see, brothers, young Black boys being raised in upper income white communities, nearly exclusively white, 95%. In many instances, your friends don't feel about you as you may feel about them. There is a racial barrier that exists and will always exist. And your realities are always going to be different. And you're always going to be looked at by your white friends differently. And so to that extent, he may not have understood that to be the case. He may have had trust for those he shouldn't have. He may have had a particular mindset that wasn't quite as rational as it should be when you're growing up in that environment. Sometimes you're irrational and you think you can do the same things they do and get away with it. No, you can't. Your black behind will go to jail and they'll go to counseling.
The most controversial part of the interview came when Mathis compared the optics of the case to the 1955 murder of Emmett Till. He made clear that he was drawing a historical analogy, not claiming the two cases were the same, but argued that the similarities in public perception were impossible for him to ignore. He also acknowledged that he was speculating because, in his words, investigators had not yet released enough verified information to reach firm conclusions.